Right, legal and ethical. Every profession has their own legal and ethical stuff. A lot of our stuff is the same as with social work and youth work and things like that. So we have a few basic things. More our ethical requirements we find more in our ACA code of conduct, or wherever you belong to. If you're with ACA, you could follow their conduct. I'm with the CCA, Christian Counselling Association. That's the one I belong to. So we've got a code of conduct which is also almost the same as the ACA one. And then we have PACFA, which is the big mothership of counselling associations, and that's the one I'm working very hard on in getting into. PACFA is covering them all. So all the little ones, ACA, CCA, and them all fall under PACFA anyway. So they all have basically the same sort of ethical codes and things. Obviously, each one's got unique ones, like CCA. It's got some Christian values and stuff in, which makes them again unique. So each association is different. So it's required. It's not a requirement for you to belong to an association at this stage. It's going to come. It's going to happen. It's going to be legalized. They're busy on this process, and once it's legalized, you won't be able to run a practice or anything if you don't have Counselling Association accreditation, which is great because that will help our profession to be more legal. Because at this stage, any person can start a counselling practice or sit under a tree and start meditating, get a group together, and so. But in the meanwhile, make sure that if you go for counselling to a counsellor, make sure they are actually with some sort of association, some registered association. Okay. So it's with the unit CHCCSL 508B. It's in cluster 4 that this legal and ethical thing comes our way, and no matter what we do, it's going to be also in the new diploma. This unit will be in the new diploma, so which is awesome. Okay, first of all, ethics. Ethics. Now, what do you see as ethics? Group chat. Anyone? What do you see as ethics? What's ethical?
A bunch of laws.
A bunch of laws. Not really laws.
See, that's what I base my ethics on.
It's basically a bunch of laws, but some of them are unscripted laws. So
Yeah.
ethics, the ethics of the law, practitioners of the law, they've got their own ethical code. Doctors have their own ethical code. We have our own ethical code. Psychologists have their own code. So the ethics is different for every person. So it's just, the dictionary says, a system of moral principles. The ethics of a culture. Medical ethics, Christian ethics. So each association, each group, each culture has got their own ethical system. What's acceptable in Australia, ethically wise, might not be acceptable in South Africa. The way we raise our children are different. The way our schooling systems are different. It's like I grew up with short back and sides and walking in a line, and you have to walk on the left side the whole time. You have to carry your bag in the right hand. That's part of the ethical code. Uniforms, ties, whatever, and that I'm talking about. I never had the privilege of being in a private school. That is a state school I'm talking about. That's the ethical code of the school I went to. So it's different. And then when I came here, I worked at Bentley State High across the road, and
They don't care.
they don't care. But I found a different ethical code, which was different from the one I grew up in, but it was still an ethical code. And it wasn't a bad ethical code. It was a good ethical code. But ethics change to where we go. Morality change. What's immoral in one country is moral in another country. I come from a country where it's legal to be married to more than one wife. the president's got 5 wives.
That'd keep them all happy.
Yeah, it cost the country a lot of money for all the first wives, but that sort of stuff. And then we come to other countries where it's illegal to have more than one wife, or it's frowned upon to have more than one wife. That sort of system. So every code, moral codes differ from country to country, place to place, home to home. The code in my house is different from the code in my neighbour's house. So that's all sorts of stuff, and that's things we need to take in consideration when we counsel our clients. It's like our clients come from different backgrounds, different ways of seeing things, different. They see stuff different, and what I see as abnormal might be normal to them. Okay, so that's just a bit on what ethics is. We've got a thing called an ethical dilemma. An ethical dilemma is exactly what it says, an ethical dilemma. Who of you believe it is unethical to lie? Anyone? Just let me just see by a raise of hands. Do you believe it's unethical to lie?
That could be lie all the time.
Hey?
Yeah,
Lie all the time.
or a little white
It's
lie.
nothing.
But what do
white
you consider
lie.
a
A lie is a
lie?
lie.
Or there's a
Yeah.
black lie.
Yeah.
A lie is a lie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm lying to you. I believe it's unethical to lie. I don't go with lies. But the problem is, we get an ethical dilemma. The neighbours, the lady that lives next to you, knock on the door and say to you, hide me. My husband's going to kill me if he finds me. So you hide her in your house. The husband knocks on the door and says, is my wife here? What do? Lie or tell the truth?
I haven't seen one.
Haven't seen it, yeah, that's
So
what I'd
that's
say.
a lie. So
But
then
that's a
you-
lie.
Yeah.
so then
Yeah, but
you-
you're not going to hand the woman back over to somebody that's going to flog her.
But it's
Unless she's
unethical.
lying.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Oh,
un-
yeah,
it's
yeah.
unethical.
Yeah, she's lying, yeah.
That's why I said it.
So we call it an ethical dilemma.
Second thing.
That's
An
just-
ethical dilemma is when you have to break some of your boundaries
Yeah, that's
or
right.
some of your ethical principles for some very legitimate reason. I'm not talking about white lies, black lies, grey lies, whatever. I'm talking about ethical reasons where it gets into ethics. I studied ethics as I did my honours degree on ethics, and that's one of the greatest dilemmas is the ethical dilemma, because when is it a dilemma? When is it unethical? So there's a lot of stuff regarding ethics. Okay, so which is something that we have to actually sort out ourselves. You as a practitioner need to know, this is my ethical code, but what are my personal ethics? Okay, what do I do? So we're going to just look at it at some ethical stuff. So that's the ethical dilemma, and you can get into contact with an ethical dilemma quite often in your practice. Okay. Rights and responsibilities of a client. Now one of the other ethical dilemmas which we're going to talk about later on is, what do we do if our clients give us gifts? So that's an
Yeah,
ethical
that's
dilemma,
right.
so just think of it. So rights and responsibilities of your client. Your client's got the right of professional and competent counselling. So they have that right for professional and competent counselling. So if you don't feel like you can be, you're not competent, especially in the area where they need help, it is unethical for you to continue counselling them. Okay? It's unethical for you to say, I'm gonna try. I know your issue is you need financial counselling. I'm clueless when it comes to financial counselling, but just because I like you and you pay me every time you come in, so I'm going to try and attend financial counselling with you, or I'm not a child counsellor. I'm not at all. That's not the area that I want to be, but because I need extra money, I'll counsel your children. Okay, that's unethical. Unethical is, so stay ethical by giving your client the best you can, the best counseling you can. Clients have the rights to have their individuality and beliefs respected. So you have to believe or respect a client for who they are. The only legal reason why you can refer a client, I'm not talking about if you can't really, you don't have the skills, or if it's something that needs to be referred to your GP and those sort of things, but the only real reason where your client has got let's say the client is within your age group that you work with, within the abilities that you have, the only reason you can refer a client on that you don't want to work with them is actually for the fact of culture. So all the others ones are not. So you cannot say it's not my it's beyond my principles to counsel you because you were in prison for something, or you were this, or you were that, or your maybe your sexual orientation is not what I want, that I want to work with, whatever. You legally cannot refer a client on or say I'm not going to work with you because the only real reason is culture. And that's because I don't understand you. Okay, so fully informed of the service to be provided, we call it informed consent. So when you've got a client that's part of your client contract, client contract is also, you're going to have to inform the client what you're going to do. So I'm going to talk to you, and we're going to talk, and I'm going to, my counselling service does that. That's why in Prac 1, we sort of explain to you what sort of counselling service we have as part of the Prac to get you to this part, informed consent, that the client knows what's happening. Okay? Don't need to know that you use CBT, PCT, whatever. Not really, you don't really have to explain it to them. You can just say to them, listen, I'm going to use PCT and CBT techniques. If they want to know more about it, they can go and Google it. You don't have to spend the whole session explaining it to them, unless they really ask you. But so that's part of informed consent. Right to autonomy, make their own decisions. So clients can make their decisions. They can decide if they want to see you again or not. You can ask them, go home, write a letter to your mother who you've got an issue with. If they don't want to do it, it's their right to decide they're not going to do it. Okay? We cannot force it onto them. Receive counselling that is responsive to their individual needs. Okay, so it's individualized. It's not like we've got a tick box and you fill all the tick boxes, and there's all sorts of generalized sort of counselling, almost like computer generated sort of counselling thing. They have the right to have it individualized and spend time with you in the way that you can help them. To have a safe therapeutic environment, a safe environment, place where they feel heard. So the best counselling rooms I've ever seen was at a church in South Africa called Mosaic. All the counselling rooms are made of glass. All four walls are glass. It's amazing. Because you can see the person, you just can't hear them. So it's a very safe environment because counsellor and counsellee feel safe. Although other people can see them, you know that nothing's going to happen. And no one's going to try anything. And as a counsellor, you also know that you're safe. Like if this person wants to attack you or anything, there's a lot of people seeing what's happening. So it's great. The only thing is they can't hear. So that's...
Wouldn't it distract if you could
Can
see
we
other
talk
people?
about it after?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so just a safe environment. You have the right to be closed off. Okay, and that's part of counselling. Is you must feel safe, but also as a counsellor. I have stopped counselling sessions before with a client when I don't feel safe. Come on, Tony. So that's important to always know. Your counselling place must be a place where people are safe, and that's why also don't counsel when you're alone. Okay. So make sure that there's someone outside, maybe a secretary or someone outside. And one thing is, don't go to their homes. Thank you. And number two is, I don't recommend people coming to your house for counselling. So don't go and set up your counselling rooms at your home. Some people do that. Some people create their own offices. I've been to 2 counsellors now, where the counselling practice is at their home. I, as a person, feel very uncomfortable as a client to go there. And the other one is, you don't want clients that start going really weird to know where you live. It's just for unsafe. And I don't want people to know anything about my children and my wife and my house and anything. My clients stay my clients. Okay, so Right. Rights and responsibility of the client further. Right to confidentiality and the protection of their personal identification. Right. That is very important. The confidentiality clause is very important. Okay. I know we hammer a lot on it. We talked a lot about it, but it's really, really important that you don't reveal stuff of your clients to people, okay? Even your spouse. Okay? If you want to come home, I know the best thing is we use our partners, the spouses as soundboards. We come home with this terrible day at work, like this great day at work. Tell about the work colleagues and all sorts of things. The one thing that you don't do is you don't go home and tell your partner or spouse about your clients. Okay, it's unethical. You're breaking the law. Okay, I know they would love to hear about our clients. To be honest, sometimes I would love to talk about my clients because sometimes I go home and like, yee, this was a good one. Now I would like to tell someone about this one, but no, you can't do that. If you want to talk about someone, that's when you get clinical supervision, and that's where you talk about it. Okay? And also in clinical supervision, we don't mention names. We give them fictitious names, and we talk in the session, we talk to our counselor or our supervisor as if the person is present. So we talk with absolute respect of our clients. You can't go and say that, I saw this crazy guy today and he's like this. You talk to your supervisor as if the person is present. You have the same respect you would have if the person was in the room. So that's just one thing about supervision. The right to make a complaint. Okay, they have a right to make a complaint, and that's all the details are in your counselling. Normally you have to have it in your contract. If you don't like the service, this is where you're going to go, normally to the counselling association. To be honest, they can't really do anything because it's not legalised. But if it's your service and you've got counsellors and they mess up, you can work on that. The other option is obviously they can sue you. They can go the legal route. And that's why it's important to have insurance. So ACA's got a good deal. I think it's about $150 a year for insurance or something like that. So, okay, acts that may apply, and this is, and I think in either Unit 1 or Unit 2, there's a question on this one that says, which acts apply to a counsellor? Those are the acts. The Child Protection Act, the Children and Young Persons Act, Domestic Violence Act, Privacy Act, which is also the Confidentiality Act, Privacy Amendment Act, Freedom of Information Act, Equal Opportunity and Anti-Discrimination legislation, Commonwealth Family Law Act, and the Work Health and Safety legislation. So those are the acts that's got an influence, or that is important for us to know. So yeah, the weird thing about the Australian system is that each state you go to have different.
Yeah.
So these ones are different in every state. The most flexible, or the one that's not covered the most, especially when it comes to Children and Young Persons Act, is Queensland. But apparently they're working on it. But they've been working on it now for quite a while. But those acts are a bit more on the side of the criminal than on the side of the person or the child at this stage. So they are working on these acts at this level. And I think the thing that happened with the foster carers is just bringing it out more, and they are getting priority to be changed. So, but those are the acts that you need to be aware of. You don't need to know them. The joy of this is that you have a clinical supervisor which you take stuff to anyway. So normally in your workplace you'll have a supervisor or a mentor, and you'll have your clinical supervisor, who is the outside person that you employ and you pay. Okay, so you don't need to write them down because they're all in your notes anyway. So, okay, we talked about it earlier. What is informed consent? Informed consent is basically just the right that you know what they're going to do to you. There's also, the photo is about a doctor and a couple there. Same as a doctor, when he's going to do an operation, when they're going to give you medication, whatever, they're going to tell you exactly what the treatment is. That's the law. Your dentist will tell you exactly what they're going to do. Same as with counselling. We have to tell our clients exactly what we're going to do to them, or with them, or what sort of therapy we're going to use. And they have the right to refuse it, okay? Which is also the right of refusal. They can say, sorry, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go there. Same with doctors. If you say you don't want the treatment, you can refuse the treatment. Sometimes you have to sign a form, but you can do it. Okay? So informed consent is, and that's basically part of the contracts you sign in the beginning. When you go to your counselling room in the beginning, sitting in the office, waiting for your counsellor, you're being bombarded with a heap and a half of questions. I, on a regular basis, go to the guys in Mermaid Beach for counselling, which is Relationships Australia. Relationships Australia, great counsellors, great setup there. If you ever need to go for counselling there, special price $35 for students. So if you show your student card, you get counselling for $35, which is normally, I think normal fee is about $100, $120. So that you get it, and they're brilliant. So I normally refer people to them now. They also have child counselling and things like that. Okay, so informed consent, make sure that your client knows what you're going to do. And also keep to that. If you tell your client, I'm going to use CBT, PCT, don't jump in with ACT. Okay? Make sure they know. If you want to use ACT, say, I'm going to change around a bit and I'm going to add this therapy or that therapy. Okay? So just make sure your clients know exactly what you're going to do. That they don't turn around and maybe sue you and say that I didn't know about that. Or that therapy didn't work for me. Duty of care. Duty of care is the responsibility or the legal obligation of a person or organization to avoid acts or omissions which can be reasonably foreseen to be likely to cause harm to others. Okay, so if a client tells you that they want to commit suicide, what do? You have to report it. Okay? You have to report it, make sure there's notes about it, take it to your supervisor, clinical supervisor, someone. If it's really a serious case, call an ambulance. But this thing is like, we can't just let it go. Same as when someone tells you that they've been sexually abused or are sexually abused, that sort of stuff. We can't just leave it. Your duty of care, which is a legal act, says that you have to do something. Okay? So.
Queensland.
Hey?
Except for Queensland.
No, in Queensland too.
But children, you could ignore it.
There's some degrees that you
Yeah.
can ignore it, but cover yourself in the sense of make sure that you're covered. I would rather report it than later on be told that. So yeah, so I've got a mentor, I've got a clinical supervisor. They know it, and what they do with it. I mean, if they tell me take it to the police or take it to, it's fine. But I've already raised it. I've already given it to them. Okay. Name some duty of care issues. While you're sitting there, what can you think? Think of a duty of care issue.
I have one that's gone.
Okay. Duty of care issue. Easy one, suicide. Okay. Yeah. Also, workplace health and safety.
That's what I was gonna.
If
that's
you
the thing
see
I-
something that might be dangerous,
Sorry?
if you see something that might be dangerous, like we hear, and there's children playing around and there's open electrical plugs or an
Yeah.
open fire, whatever, that's duty of care.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to take care of that, it's not going to happen. Also, There's another one, which is the story that people say that I don't do first aid. I don't want to be a first aid. I don't want to be trained in first aid because if something happens, then I'm responsible,
Yeah.
which is not really true. If something happens, you're irresponsible anyway, because you need to do something. Even if you're trained or not, you have to do something, even if it is to call the ambulance. So everyone's got duty of care. Duty of care is for everyone. So
Isn't that natural?
it's
That
natural.
comes natural to me.
It's
To
a
me, that
natural.
sounds
It's a
like more
natural
grey
thing.
area.
Sorry.
To me, that's a bit of a grey area.
It is a bit of a grey area.
Don't really
So-
have to.
Yeah. So driving past and there's an accident, do you stop or don't you stop? That sort of thing.
Don't stop. Because it blocks up traffic.
In Australia, I'll stop. In South Africa, I won't stop because in some cases, that is a trap,
Yeah.
and you get killed or you. So, but in Australia, it's safer. So I will stop if I'm the first. If I'm not, if like there's already 10 cars there, then I'm obviously not going to stop because I'm just in the way. But just think of what, if you're the first person on the scene or second person on the scene, stop. That's your duty of care, okay, so. Boundaries. Boundaries are great. We cross them a lot. Boundaries. In your own life, personal life, private life, there's boundaries. We place boundaries on stuff. I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to be this. Even in counseling, there are boundaries. If you can think of a boundary? Swearing can be a boundary. I'm talking about a real bad boundary.
You said relationship.
Well, yeah,
Sorry?
having
A
a,
relationship with your client.
yeah,
That's a boundary. I'm not going to take my client to coffee. Once my client, almost my client. Remember, a person always stays your client. Even if they're no longer your client, they stay your client.
For at least 2 years.
Hmm?
For at least 2 years.
Yeah, but actually for life. Actually for life, because you always have to respect that person's privacy. Even if they're no longer your client, you can't say that they've once been my client. Privacy law is you can't reveal that someone's been your client. So technically, they always stay your client, even if they die. Don't go to the funeral and says, I
Don't
know
go to
him
the
because he was my client, I'm his counsellor. That's still that guy's privacy. He might come and haunt you. So, or his family might sue you or something like that. So remember, the privacy law is there, is always there. Okay, boundaries is like, I'm not going to go on a date with my client. I'm not going to go to a coffee shop with my client. Unaware. If I've got at this stage I have a client who I see in a coffee shop, okay, which is a crossing of my boundary. But the reason why I see this client is this client's got a phobia for the place where my practice is. So the only way for me to see him is to meet across the road at a coffee shop. And everyone else that's involved knows exactly I'm seeing this guy at the coffee shop.
because he feels safe there too.
He feels safe there. He's just annoyed with some of the people at the place where I counsel. So he normally arrives there and then texts me and says, I see these people there, I don't want to come in. So I meet him at the coffee shop. That's the way we do it. But I'm not meeting him at his house, he's not meeting me at my house.
Yeah.
I'm meeting him and I'm not meeting him at an undisclosed coffee shop location where no one knows. My mentor, my clinical supervisor, everyone knows I'm meeting this person there and the reason I do. So boundaries are there to be kept, okay? It's very, very important. Don't accept gifts. Don't accept gifts. I don't think there's anything wrong with accepting a gift at Christmas time, like a small little gift or card of thank you or maybe a box of chocolates or whatever, the normal Christmas thing. I'm talking about if they come at Christmas and buy you like give you
A diamond ring or something like that.
or a brand new car or a amazing coffee machine or whatever, there's boundaries. Okay? There's definitely boundaries. The value of the item also. And if you've got a single lady and you're a man and she keeps bringing you muffins every time, there might be a problem. Okay, so just be aware. If you've got a single guy bringing you roses every time you counsel him, there might be a problem. So just
free roses and muffins.
yeah, free roses and muffins. Yeah. But it's just be careful of those things. Also, clients offer you, giving you more money. Like the counselling session is so great. I want to pay double what you normally charge me. No, we don't go there. So just be careful. Have your boundaries. Have your boundaries there, okay? No matter how tempting it would be, but boundaries are there for a reason. And once you cross the boundary, it's very difficult to get back. Okay, so just be aware of that. And you don't want to be known as the dodgy counsellor. Okay, so then you have to have a chat with your supervisor. Okay.
What if they're dodgy supervisor?
Then you really have to have a chat. Okay, intimate relationships. Beware of intimate relationships. Sexual relationships with current and former clients. Okay, so no sexual relationships with clients, current or former. Okay, no physical contact. Be careful of physical contact. Be careful of hugging your clients, kissing your clients, whatever. Okay. Sometimes, if you're really, if they're crying, touch them on the shoulder or whatever, but keep it all above board. If you don't need to touch your clients, that's even better. Okay? So no physical contact. Providing services to a former lover. Okay, we don't counsel our exes. Okay. Okay. Sexual relationship with clients, relatives, or acquaintances. Don't have sexual relationship with clients or the client's relatives or acquaintances of your clients. Okay, so don't have a sexual relationship with your client's mother, that sort of stuff. Okay, it's like, okay, it's not good. I don't know if you've seen the, I don't know what's the name of the movie. I think it's called The Professional. It's a comedy about this lady seeing a psychologist. It's a brilliant movie.
Yeah, she ends up sleeping with a psychologist's
son. Yeah, so she's having an affair, or she's not unaware. So she's got this relationship with the psychologist's son, and she comes to the sessions and tells the mother how great this guy is in bed and all sorts of stuff and whatever. And then one day, the son brings his girlfriend home to meet, and it's the client.
Oh, yes, I've seen that.
So yeah, there's a bit of boundary crossing. There's a bit of ethical issues happening there. I actually think she stopped being the counsellor or the psychologist at one stage. So it's a brilliant movie. It's a comedy, but it touched a lot of this stuff. Okay, so no sexual relationships with your supervisor, your trainees, students, and colleagues. Okay, and intimate gestures, notes, meals, gifts, sort of stuff. Okay, so just be aware of these things. It can happen, and it happens faster than we can actually imagine. So just be aware of this. And the transference, counter-transference thing I talked about earlier in previous sessions plays a big role in this. Dual relationships. What are dual relationships? I can safely say today that 95% of all my clients I see, I have dual relationships with. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. But where I counsel, I can't help it. I counsel at my local church. I'm also on the leadership of the church. And I'm the official and only counsellor of the church. All clients I get as referred to me by the church. I see my clients at home groups. I see my clients on Sundays at church normally, and I run a fitness home group, and some of my clients are in my fitness home group. But I have a dual relationship form for all my clients. So when my clients come to see me, first step is we work through this form, and we say the boundaries are more tight than any other boundaries. The boundaries are Whatever happens in counselling room stays in the counselling room. If you want to talk to me about counselling related matters, we talk in the counselling room about counselling related matters. If you have to go and work on something, which I tell you, give you homework, and you get like a bright moment and a breakthrough, you keep that breakthrough to yourself till our next counselling session. And we don't talk at all about counselling. No one knows you're my client unless you tell them. And that's how it works, and it's working great. I had a problem the other day with a boundary crossing. One of my clients' mothers approached me and said to me, "I'm so glad my daughter sees you, and it's doing great. The counselling is great for her." What did I do? I went to my client and said, "Just want to let you know that your mother talked to me, and your mother said to me that it's great that you come to counselling. So it's just how it is. I'm sharing whatever anyone tells my client, me of my client, directly with my client. So that's how I overcome dual relationships. Dual relationships will happen. I thought it can only happen in a small community, but it will happen. I had a dual relationship a while ago when I was at another counselling centre. One of my wife's friends asked if I can see their daughter. The daughter was aware of the fact that we're friends. The daughter was aware of the fact that the relationship I have with her parents. The parents knew I was counselling them, and the parents knew that no matter what the daughter tells me, I will not tell you. But the parents also knew that whatever you tell me of your daughter, I will tell your daughter, because she's my client. Okay, so my client is my client. So dual relationships will happen. Be aware of them. If you start opening a practice in a very small little town, yes, you will have dual relationships. The problem is staying professional. Okay? Dual relationships are dangerous. Okay? If you don't manage them, they can be dangerous. So just be aware of them. And this is an important thing to go by. When in doubt, don't. If you have a doubt about any relationship or anything, you wonder if is it ethical, is it legal, is it whatever, just don't do it. Okay, so when in doubt, don't do it. Okay. Don't be borderline. Okay, rather be high above line. I know of a counsellor who says that he always wants to be borderline. Borderline is dangerous. Okay? Stay away from being borderline. Always be above. Be 100% with what you're doing. Okay? And when in doubt, don't do it. If it worked for Benjamin Franklin, it can work for me. So, yeah. So that's the end of legal and ethical for today.